the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Fouché Way radio show, live every Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m., a show sponsored by a nonprofit organization called Canine Hope for Improvement Program, where we hope to improve the quality of dogs' lives by moving towards a no-kill society. The number here is 818-602-4929. If you have a question about dogs you'd like to be answered, you can call 323-637-7306. Now, our topic today is living with shelter dogs. This is a very interesting topic because we're having a problem with dogs being adopted from the shelter and then being returned, or people returning their dogs into the shelter and someone else adopting them and adopting their problems. And the first person I want to talk to is a gentleman by the name of David Corse, who has a pit bull called Nikki. And the reason I want to talk to David is that during my last show, I talked about environment and leash aggression. And a few people were interested, but they said he never told us what to do. And there's a reason why I didn't tell you exactly what to do, and that's why I'm bringing David in. David is a gentleman. He's a big, strong guy. And so you would think, oh, he can walk a pit bull. He has no problem. It's the women that are having problems with these strong dogs. And I just want to let everyone know it's not about the physical strength, because as small as his pit bull is, which is basically a medium-sized dog, she's got some power in those legs. And so I want to talk to David first about his journey with his pit bull, because he adopted her from a shelter situation, and he had expectations when he went to the shelter to get this dog, and then the reality set in. And so let's hear what David has to say. David, are you there?
I am here.
Yes, David. So can you tell us, how it was that you decided to go and get a pit bull?
Well, it happened a little by accident, Brandon. Somebody had rescued her, was looking for somebody to foster her for a week while they looked for a home, and I agreed to foster her, and that was a terrible mistake because it was sort of a love at first sight, and the fostering turned into a permanent home situation. So,
hey, that's a rescue trick, David.
Well, that's a great rescue trick, and it worked perfectly on me.
Okay.
When I got Nikki, she was that guest just about 8 or 9 months old. She was completely untrained, whether that was being house trained or any command. She just was a very enthusiastic and lovable 8-month-old puppy with lots of energy.
Okay.
Got her home and started the training process. Actually engaged kind of a normal trainer to help us with, basic commands like sit and stay and walking and the recall commands, which worked pretty well for most situations, but didn't work very well when she got around other dogs. When we were walking her and a dog would be in a yard and barking at her, or another dog coming the other direction on a leash, whether she just wanted to play or just got overly excited, she turned into 60 pounds of muscle moving in a different direction than I was moving.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tried to correct her or restrain her, she saw me as an obstacle to the process and decided to turn her attentions on me, and not always with happy results.
Wow.
So she was more than I could safely handle for me or around other folks. She just kind of out of control during those moments where she kind of went into red zone.
Right. So it wasn't just a training problem of walking on the leash. It was actually an aggressive issue towards you.
Yeah, I guess she saw me as an obstacle to whatever it is she wanted to do at that moment.
Right.
And we just had to find a solution. We boarded her one time at a local kennel, and 2 days later they called and said, you have to come take this dog away. Apparently she'd had an issue with another dog, and a trainer went in to try and solve the problem, and the trainer got snapped at a little bit, and they said, this dog can't be corrected. Somebody should probably she's aggressive, she's dangerous, either put her on Prozac or put her down. which was not some of the options we had in mind. So we went looking for solutions and happily found you.
Well, you went to another trainer, though, before, right, or behavioralist, where she went through a rehabilitation program?
We did. We found after the first trainer, we found a behaviorist.
We don't have to mention names or anything, but go on.
No, that's fine. She stayed with him for a couple of months. Made a great deal of difference to her demeanor. I mean, she was around some other dogs, and she got much more acclimated. And during this process, we had house trained her and all that kind of stuff. And he was very, very great with her. But we still had the issue when he wasn't around, and we were back on home ground. 95% of the time, she was perfect, just absolutely perfect. But that 5% of the time, same situation: a dog in a yard barking aggressively, or a dog on a leash that was kind of giving her a bad time. She responded very, very quickly, and I was unable to get her attention. I was unable to get her to disengage from the excitement, which continued to give us challenges which were not happy for anybody.
Exactly. And you had a problem with someone else, too, that was walking her, right? They had the same situation.
There have been a couple of people. My girlfriend walked her several times, and she's much smaller than I am. She's like 5'1" or thereabouts, and Nikki's about half her weight. And it was a bit dangerous. She also got nipped. Another friend of ours was just hanging on to her for a few seconds when something happened and almost got pulled down. So we did not have control of her whenever she got hyper excited.
Okay. All right, and then what happened?
Well, we found you, and you evaluated her and spent a day with her, and it was pretty amazing. You showed us a video the next day or later that day upon arrival, walking past a bunch of crates where she was going berserk on the end of a leash. And you showed us another video taken an hour or so later after you and she had gotten acquainted and established a relationship, where she walked the straight and narrow and didn't even look at another dog, just walked with you, looking relaxed and undistracted. So that convinced us that we wanted to try something new. And happily we worked with you. You worked with Nikki for a couple of weeks, and then you worked with us. And that sort of kind of worked, except we were still having some of the problems because some of the demonstration stuff we did at your facility with some of your dogs just wasn't as much real world. I was still having a problem at home. And then the last chapter was you came out to our neighborhood, and rather than telling me what to do, you kind of showed me what to do in my neighborhood. And it was a picture was worth a bazillion words. And within about 15 minutes of your arrival, we were walking happily and under control, and that's been about a week, I guess. And so far, we're batting 1,000. Everything has been absolutely perfect in those exact same situations. She's walking along with me and behind me. She responds to my voice if she gets distracted by something else. There's been no aggression toward other dogs, and most importantly, no aggression toward me or any other folks around her.
That's great.
So far, so good.
Yeah. And, I wanted you to tell this story because, when you come from a background of a professional working with dogs, trainers and behavioralists, we tend to, when we're dealing with clients, we want to tell them what needs to be done. Owners want to know, tell me what to do. And in your case, I actually told you what to do, but that wasn't working for you. And I remember at one point you were talking with your girlfriend, or your girlfriend said to you, "Do you think Brandon thinks we're just dummies?"
That's almost a direct quote, and we sort of felt that way. It's you did tell us exactly what to do. We actually tried doing exactly what you told us under your supervision in front of your facility, but we were interacting with your dogs who were all kind of behaving themselves. There were dogs that she knew, so she was behaving herself, and it wasn't until we got back in our home area. I think, as you saw when we were walking, there were a couple of particular houses that have dogs behind the gates that are always aggressive, and she was associating those houses with something's going to happen here. The minute we got close to that house, even before the dog barked, she went on high alert because that's what she associated with. And I needed your help to see how you handled it in my world as opposed to yours. And it was night and day in terms of living at first person in my neighborhood as opposed to the classroom kind of environment.
Right. And could you tell, David, when I was there, that was actually a learned behavior? She believed that she was supposed to act like that based on the experience that she had in your environment. Can you see that?
Absolutely. As I say, you could see that as we were walking, she had an expectation, almost house by house or different parts of the street we were walking on, where something was going to happen, and she owned the walk. That was her walk, and she was deciding not so much where we went, but what was going to happen when we got there. Mm-hmm. I was a passenger to the process, and since last week, I've taken over as pilot of our plane, and she's a happy co-pilot.
I couldn't have said it any better. David, I want to thank you and continue your success with Nikki. She's a wonderful dog. Oh, I almost forgot. I mean, you got a bonus with her coming to me. It wasn't just walking on the leash is what your biggest problem was. What are you able to do with her now?
Well,
where can you go now?
Never envisioned we'd be able to do. We go to the dog park and off the leash, and she comes when she's called, and she just has a spectacular time, and she's relaxed and happy and completely non-aggressive.
Yeah.
It was a giant bonus. I would have bet you serious money that wouldn't have happened, and I'm glad I didn't do that.
Well, I am definitely happy to hear that. And to those listeners out there, this is not an infomercial. This is not an actor. This is a real life person, just like your listeners there, that was having some serious issues with their dogs, but they stepped up and they got in control. And this is what we've got to do. As he says, I like it. You said, David, you are the pilot. You are handling things, and Nikki accepts that. That's exactly what she wants. So I'm really happy to hear your story. And thank you very much, David. And we're going to move along to Nicole. Nicole, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Nicole, I am so happy to finally talk with you because you have a very unique story too. And I want our listeners to hear, this station is somewhat, to me, like a book. You can be reading something, put it down, and then pick it up the next time and go back a couple of pages and read it again and then move forward. And that's what we're doing here with your story because you really had a problem. And I just want to get right into it. Can you tell the listeners what kind of problems you were having?
Oh, well, ours goes even further than dog aggression. We ended up we are actually currently in a civil suit where she did bite a human being, unfortunately, which is, the most horrible thing that can happen to you, I think, as a dog owner that is responsible for your dog. Mm-hmm. And, Luna came to us from a shelter environment, and we've rescued dogs all our lives. We had, old ones, young ones, you name it. And when we go to rescue a dog, our process is actually quite long because we have 3 smaller children, we have other dogs in the house. So our process usually takes anywhere from a day to maybe even a couple of days to go and visit the dog, the kids to hang around the dog, make sure there is no signs of any aggression whatsoever, as well as then introduce the dogs and hang out with the dogs and really absolutely make sure that this isn't going to be an issue when we get home. And so with Luna, really, it was like that. And I even took a friend with me because I do tend to, when my husband isn't with me, I tend to just, kind of look at the dog and go, well, I can fix this. And he said to me, can you just take a second opinion with you? Which I did. I brought a friend along. We visited all day long. And Luna was absolutely marvelous. She was great with the kids. She was great with the dogs. There was absolutely zero indication that something was up with her. And we took her home, and probably about 2 weeks into having her at home, she was an absolutely amazing dog. But as soon as we left the door, she would lose it. I mean, she'd be frightened at the wind. She'd be frightened at bikes. She'd be snapping at joggers and you name it. And we immediately turned to trainers, obviously. Mm-hmm. And we ended up with a trainer that taught us the reward system. Mm-hmm. And so we used that, and it gave us tools to manage her.
Mm-hmm.
So it was creating distances and associating things with something pleasant. And but it really only gave us a control mechanism. It wasn't a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the end, it happened again, and this time it was a human. And so
were your kids there to see that?
Hello?
Were your kids there to see that?
Yes, unfortunately. And, my older daughter still suffers from it. And, I dream about it regularly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horrible, horrible incident that can happen, And I was ready. My husband was out of town, and I phoned him and I said, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I can't have this dog. We have to make the call. And I don't even want to transfer the dog to anybody else because I don't want to just transfer a problem. And I said to him, I've never believed that there's aggression in dogs. This dog has aggression, and she needs to be put down.
Mm-hmm.
And he begged me to wait until he was home,
Wow.
and I agreed.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, I had heard of Angel Pitbull Rescue in LA, and I thought, you know what, I'll give him a call.
But how did
maybe
you,
they know
wait,
something.
I'm missing the story. You didn't know about them at first, right?
About
the pit bull, sir. You were out walking your dog and someone saw you, right?
Oh yeah, well that the story actually goes back to Colorado, really, and it's one of those things that seems to happen in life for a reason. We were ready to move to California. We had the car packed, kids, dogs, guinea pigs, you name it, and my car broke down, and we ended up at this garage that had to fix a battery. And I was walking the dogs, and as usual, I get a car pulling up and lowering the window and starting to sort of shout at me. And I thought, oh, here we go. I think a lot of people that own pit bulls get that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can you own a pit bull? They're aggressive dogs,
Right.
and with kids. And so I got ready to sort of justify. And as I got closer, the lady was thanking me. She said, thank you so much for rescuing that kind of breed.
Wow.
And, I have one too. And so it was kind of, she showed me hers and I showed her mine. And we just connected. And she says, do you live here? And I said to her, we're actually on the way to move to California. And she said, where to? And I said, close to LA. And she said, my daughter found it, the Angel Pitbull Rescue. And she said, if you ever need anything, phone them, And so it's one of those conversations you just kind of have, and you walk away, and it makes you really happy, and you forget, So when I was waiting for my husband to come home to, make the kind of the inevitable decision in this situation, I contacted them, and I got in touch with a really wonderful lady by the name of Katie, and she suggested you. That's how we ended up with you. So it's kind of a long story, but kind of one of those things that almost happens in life for a reason, because, I can tell you this dog would not be alive now if it had, I needed a different answer. I couldn't have another trainer tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. We were beyond that.
And so what happened, Nancy, when you came to see me? What were you thinking? I mean, what were you thinking?
Well, you were kind of, I said, in my mind I thought this dog can't be rescued. Mm-hmm. She is beyond, aggression. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the really hard part is because in the house, she was absolutely wonderful. Anybody could come to the house. Mm-hmm. We've never had any issues. She was an absolute love muffin, and it was just outside of the house, and I was not ready to continue.
Okay.
My husband was, and I wasn't.
Right.
And and when we came to you, I thought, if I can't get proof that this dog can exist, mm-hmm. then she can't exist. Yeah. And as a dog lover all my life, that is a really, really tough decision to make inside of your heart.
It's emotional. I mean,
It is.
You've got this relationship with this dog that you love, and you're thinking about killing her.
Yeah, it was absolutely horrible. I mean, I cry every day. Sure. And now I don't have to.
Exactly. And it's so important because, it's not as important as what I can do. I mean, this is what I do for a living. What's important is for me to be able to express to you the inconsistencies in your relationship with your dog and how to get control of this.
Yes,
you know?
Absolutely.
And to give you back the power and the confidence that you thought you had, but now you know you have it. And so
exactly.
Now just kind of briefly tell us what's been happening now with your dog. How is things going?
Oh, she's absolutely amazing. I mean, we came to see you and we left her for, I think it was a total of 4 hours with you. And again, I have to, you know, as the gentleman prior to me explained, for me, the key was to see the video clip where you recreated scenarios where we had issues with her, that she would react, that she would go immediately bonkers, and see her being a normal dog. It was such a key to reestablishing my confidence that this dog was not done.
Right.
You know, it was that moment that I thought, she's not done. She is a normal dog, you know? And so that was amazing to see that. And then, you know, since then we kind of left your place committing to, you know, reclaim our leadership in the house. And we did. And it is absolutely amazing. We have, you know, as much as she is concerned, she walks behind us. She does not charge, or she doesn't even get bothered by things really now. We have 3 dogs in the house. We've implemented the Fouché way with all 3, even our 11-year-old old dog. You know, none of them charge the door anymore when the bell goes. We have a little dog in the neighborhood right next to our fence, and he comes up and he wants to get them going because he used to be able to. And now he comes up and he barks for half an hour on end, and my dogs just lay there and look at it. And kind of lay back down in the sun and go, yeah, okay. And it's just been absolutely amazing. And, you know, I really hope that, you know, any listener that is at the, you know, sort of at the end where they've had all the different training methods, and you end up with a bag of goodies, in a sense, with a bag of tools to manage your dog, but it's never really the solution.
Right.
You know, and you are the solution to this.
Well,
you know, you provided the solution. We do not have an aggressive dog.
Well, you know, I want everyone to understand that, of course, you had to follow through with this thing. I mean, you've got to believe it. You've got to move forward with it. And you've got to be in contact with me. I always tell you to be in contact with me. Let me know what's happening so I can keep you on the right track. And you've been doing that. And those people that are successful are the ones that are constantly contacting me and telling me what's going on. That's the only way. You have to stay plugged in so that you can be recharged. And now you said some good words there, because, you know, for a while now, words like hierarchy, dominance, being in control, alphas have become bad words to people out there. And I want to say, don't do that. Don't look at these words as something negative, because they represent nature. And we use those words because we want to keep you connected to nature, to understand that a dog is really a wolf in dog's clothing, and we must look at them from that standpoint first.
For sure.
And I'm so glad that you're able to do that. And this leads me into Nancy Klein at the Palm Springs shelter. She is a shelter volunteer there. She's helping getting these dogs out. And Nancy, I'm so happy that you're here. And Nicole, I'm sure that you're happy that Nancy's here, because that's where you got your dog from. And we want to pull as many dogs out of the shelters as we can to get them great homes. But we're going to have to do it with a different level of consciousness has to change about how we deal with dogs. And so, Nancy, are you there?
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy to talk to you, Nancy. We do have a little history with you and I, because you have pit bulls.
Yes.
And you've been through some real stuff with those pit bulls here in L.A., and now you have moved on. And I'm so amazed that you are working and dealing with bigger dogs in the shelters. Can you kind of tell me about that? I mean, how did that happen?
Well, Brandon, the first time how we got to know each other is when we had 2 shelter dogs and 2 from rescues.
Right.
And, we had the scuffle in the backyard, and that was at the beach in L.A.
Yeah.
And I have a pet manufacturing business. We had a vacation home that we bought in Palm Springs with a big, beautiful yard for the dogs because we lived at the beach, and we thought, let's get this house for the dogs. And on very quick notice, due to the economy, we saw a commercial building. We quickly purchased it, hadn't made any plans to do so. Put our beach home up for rent. It rented in a day, and next thing we know, we've moved out to Palm Springs, and our business has moved, and the dogs have moved, and of course, we'd always volunteered with the Downtown Dog Rescue, and here we are with this shelter that is, just transitioned into a new building and really working towards becoming a very progressive care facility. In the same way that we saw the city shelter in L.A. and Best Friends come in and sort of take that over, the same thing is happening out here in Palm Springs. And, of course, we wanted, or my husband and I certainly wanted to volunteer. And, there's never enough people that want to go in and roll out and take out the big dogs that most desperately need to get out of the kennel.
This is where the story gets interesting.
We started here.
Yeah, it's where it gets interesting because, I mean, look, let's face it, you're a woman. And you're down there getting those big dogs out. I mean, now, you've had some history. And let's hear about it. I mean, you've had some altercations with dogs, your own dogs. And, and that's how we met. I mean, tell it. They want to hear it. They want to hear it. Tell it. You got to tell it like it is,
All right. Well, certainly how we met you. We had adopted. We had 4 rescue pit bulls. We'd integrated them, and initially, and things were great. And for a couple years, things were great. And we found that we had a reactive girl and a transverse aggression, where the weed whacker on the other side of the fence, and we probably, out of all of them, and certainly not knowing, had really gotten 2 opposite ends of the spectrum for pairing the 2 girls. And, we had a couple fights, and you came out to the house, and it was, it was very scary. And we had trainers come in, and like I told you, Brandon, the last one, and we prepaid for all these training. It was expensive. I'm thinking it was like $400, $500 for this big, long training session. And Katie, he had taken her and put her on a prong collar, wrapped the leash under his foot, and just started saying he was going to make her submit and jacking her up and pulling her to the ground. And I just thought, this just isn't right. This is crazy. So then we contacted you, of course, and things changed, and we did the Fouché way, and we had peace and harmony, and we'd taken over. We became control of our pack. We were doing dominance and discipline properly and in the best way. And then we moved. Our whole life changed. It became chaotic, and we were out here in Palm Springs and bought 3 of them because Grandma had passed away after 17 years, and into a new yard, and hole in the fence, and 3 dogs on the other side poking their head through, and I'm in the backyard, talking to my husband. He's not there. He's in L.A., and fight breaks out.
Right.
So here we go again, and called you up, and been in contact over the years, and getting refreshers, and had no problems until moving here. And then these dogs were, and our lives were so out of control. And the dogs were at the knock of a door back into a scuffle and just felt out of control. And, you know, the concern was from we had talked to some other friends of ours, and they were saying, you're going to have to give one of the dogs up. They're trying to kill the other. And, I mean, these dogs have been together for, I mean, we have two 13-year-olds for, you know, 10, 11 years. And, you know, quickly got in touch with you again and got our control back. And
this
really
was over the phone. This was over the phone. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And this is what's so so important to understand that, you know, it's not so much the dogs. You know, when you're dealing with the relationship of a person and their dogs, usually the things that the dogs are doing are symptoms of a problem that is related to the relationship. Okay?
Absolutely.
And that's why to be able to help you over the phone means that you must be able to visualize what's happening in your life with your dogs. Your dogs are affected by how you feel. You know? The relationship that you develop with them, they believe it. It becomes reality for them. Okay?
Yeah.
And I really wanted to have you on because you're at the shelter. We've got people that need to come and adopt dogs from the shelter. But they are afraid because they think if they get an adult dog, they're not going to be able to handle it because most people have tried training and they say it doesn't work and they blame the dog, and so the dog suffers for that. And so what I want for them to get from you is that you're there at that shelter, you're walking those dogs, you know how you have to be in order to get those dogs under control and develop the proper kind of relationship with them to get them ready to be adopted. And people don't need to be afraid to come in because they've got people like you and other volunteers and rescue organizations that are following this concept are able to explain to them what needs to be done and how to do it and get the results that they need. Now, if everyone is not talking like this, then the consumer, the people that are coming in adopting the dog, if they don't know, how can they be successful? We are actually setting them up to fail by talking to them about positive reinforcement, love and affection from the humans concept, because that person that's adopting the dog is already coming in with those feelings in place. They need to know the hardcore stuff that you're going to have to do. And you've got dogs that you get out that I'm sure with your coworkers there, and you're saying, oh my gosh, I got to go get Brutus out of the cage, and I know he's going to abuse me and jump on me and pull on the leash, right? I know you talk like that. You talk like that about a dog, and if you didn't know if it was a dog, you think you're talking to a person that's getting ready to abuse you, right?
Listen, there's no doubt about, and I know it's like a person because look, these dogs are in a small cage, and these dogs are some of them 130 pounds, 140 pounds of muscle, and they're raring to go.
Exactly.
And a couple of them, I go, look, I'm the only game in town for you. You need to be respectful today. So that's what I tell them when I go to the cage, and it's actually pretty funny. And the people that walk the big dogs, we talk about it. It is a relationship, and the relationship, and it's what you've taught me from the very beginning, because the minute that it's in a pure sense, it's about respect.
Yes.
And it's about the dog respecting you.
Right.
And you have to earn that respect.
Yes.
But it's so very simple. As complicated as it sounds, it's so very simple. And it's walking up to that cage confidently, I'm going to, and we just walk with a rope that's like a lasso. You know, it's just a rope. There's nothing else, and that's what you use to walk all the shelter dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you know, being confident. I'm calm. They come out of the cage. It's like a dragon. And I let them know that that's not okay. So with this rope, I give him or her a quick little correction.
Mm-hmm.
I take them to the door. We go out before we go for a walk, and I give them another one, and they sit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty amazing that it really comes from what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking and the confidence of saying, okay, this is how it's going to go today.
Yeah, good. That's where I want you to stay. It's what you're feeling. It's what you're thinking. It's not so much of what you're doing physically, you know, because this is where the disconnect comes from. We deal with our dogs on an emotional, hormonal level, like a person, and then the disconnect comes once they're out, and we begin to talk to them like a robot. Sit, stay, heel, down, come, and that's where everything goes out of the window. Energy level kicks up. Dogs are all over the place. Okay? You're coming in projecting energy.
Well, you told me, and I'll never forget this, in the very first time that we met, because I said, you know, I said, Brandon, I'm out running her 3 miles, like take her on the bike. You know, I'm worried. And you said, you know, you're just creating a better athlete.
Yeah.
And she's looking at you and she's laughing because she can outrun you and she knows that. And at that moment, I knew that I'm not ever going to be able to physically, it's not about physical control.
Yes.
I've got to learn to control the mind.
Yes, that's the key.
Was that moment.
And that's why when you're controlling the mind, you don't need prong collars, choke chains, or any other apparatus out there. You're dealing with the dog's emotional highs and lows. That's what I'm talking about. We want to get people to adopt dogs, to ask questions, and we want to teach volunteers, shelter workers, how to express this information to people so that we can get these dogs out of the shelters so they're not dying. I'm here. The information is here. I'm ready to give it. You're ready to give it. You're ready to do it. We're all on board. And I'm just so happy that you're there. I'm so happy that you're at the shelter. I just can't tell you that, you know, they've got the right person there. And just keep it up. Congratulations.
Well, you know, Brandon, we're looking forward, as you know. We're trying to have you come out and speak to everybody.
I would love to.
So that people learn to think of dogs in a different way. And the big thing that I want people to understand about the shelter dogs, and it is the joke because I say it every time, because we do take dogs out of the shelter. I bring them here to my business. They roam around the warehouse. They're in the offices interacting with people as well to help them be more easily integrated into a home. But the big thing I want people to really know is that my joke with the shelter is that I wish my dogs were as good as a lot of these dogs and as beautiful as a lot of these dogs that are waiting for homes. It's pretty amazing. If I had to say, you know, how many dogs had dog-to-dog issues, and I'm talking about the bully breed, certainly. I haven't seen any like the one I have at home.
Wow.
Not any. And, you know, we're bringing them out. They're being released into yards with other bullies. And, you know, and I probably wouldn't have realized how many, because you kind of get so engrossed in your own life and the issue that we've had with one particular dog that has been challenging for her 13 years, but she's a great dog, is that these dogs, you know, very misunderstood, you know, just not seeing these sorts of issues that I've seen with my dogs who, you know, happen to be one in a million, I think.
Well,
that was the message that I want.
Well, we want to talk about that too because there's a reason for that. I know exactly what you're saying, and maybe we can get to that on the next show.
Okay.
Which it has to do with environment. I want to bring
Yeah.
in another caller who's very interesting. Natalia? Natalia,
Yes,
are you
Brandon.
there? How you doing?
Yeah. I'm great.
You know, I want to have you on because this was an interesting story. First of all, I want to tell you you were referred to me by a trainer dog walker, right?
Yes.
And you had a problem with your dogs fighting each other. And I remember talking to you over the phone. It was so emotional. And I mean, it took us a while to actually get together.
Yes.
And finally we did. I said, let's bring your dogs in and let me evaluate them. And so I evaluated the dogs and I saw what the problem was. And then I didn't help you. And I remember you calling me back saying, why won't you help me? It was so emotional.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell you. I kind of ignored the calls. And then the original dog walker trainer called me and said, hey, what's going on? And I said, I don't think that I'm going to be able to help her. And they told me, well, I'm going to go and help. And I said, I don't think you're qualified to do that. And there was an incident at your place when you were out of town with your mom and this walker, right? Dog walker.
Yeah.
Where your dog grabbed them and shook them by the arm, right?
They grabbed the walker before. No, just her.
Oh, just her. Okay.
Yeah.
And
he just grabbed her jacket and tried to pull her.
right. And so, you know, the reason why I had thought of not working with you is because when I evaluated your dog, I made a comment to you about some aggression that I saw in the dog. And I remember at that point, everyone that was there says, you got to be kidding. There's no way this dog is aggressive. Okay?
Yeah.
And I knew then, I said, they're in denial. And I don't think I'm going to be able to help. And that's when you were calling me emotionally. And finally, you allowed for me to be straight with you. And I told you that the problem was with your relationship, separate from the dogs. Do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
with my husband.
Why don't you take it from there?
Yeah. Well, the first time that I came with Serge, who is my husband, he was in complete denial. Complete. I was just quiet and listening, but second time I came alone. And the whole story, what happened is I had my 2 pit bulls already when I was living alone, and then when we moved in together, Serge, before we moved in, found this big pit bull mastiff mix in the middle of East LA streets, dirty, hungry, with a chain on his neck, and it was very admirable that he put him in his car and drove him home and decided to keep him. But once we moved in together, my dog, Diesel, started attacking his dog. And I tried everything. I tried every possible training in LA, from canine behavior services to private trainers, and nothing seemed to work. And when I got to you, Brandon, first I was a little resentful, but then I was so desperate because for me, it's been years already that they've been fighting, and I've been struggling with it. But giving up was not an option.
Right.
These dogs are my life; they're my family. It's not an option. I'll probably divorce first before I give up my dog. And when I did the private session with Brandon, he mentioned something that clicked something in my head. I told him, Diesel is such an emotional dog, and he's so much aggression, but I love him and I don't understand. And he said, well, he's just a mirror of you. And I realized that I was so unstable and unbalanced at that time in my life. I've been arguing with my husband. I was very unhappy, and I couldn't find myself, and I was miserable. And I realized my dogs picked it up, and they started fighting each other. And if the way people look at the problem most of the time, I've heard this phrase that what you think is working against you is actually working for you, and that working with Brandon made me realize that this is, instead of giving up, this is my option to become balanced and transfer this to my dogs. And they're the greatest teachers in my life. And so, of course, the way Brandon works, and he asked me to go through my fear and face it and just put them together, because I've been separating them ever since. And I said, I'm scared. And he said, just put a muzzle on them if you're so scared, and let them be in the backyard. And, of course, I did it. And, of course, they got into a fight.
I told you that they would.
Yeah, and you said you have to go through this, you have to follow up, and you have to deal with it different.
Right.
Yeah, and they got into this big fight, but the muzzles were on. But what I realized, as we already mentioned, is I have to become one of them.
Yes.
It sounds funny, but I have to watch them and become one of them, and not make them sit or stay or yell or scream, but just react and feel and have the energy, the right energy as a pack leader. And I can't even tell you. I've worked with Brandon a few more days, and I have a huge backyard. They've been running around ever since. Never watch them, never scream, never separate them, and it's just one of the greatest accomplishments in my life.
And Natalia, you know, I wanted to have you on because your story, the way we work, was a little different. Your dogs did not go through rehabilitation with me. And I told you I was going to walk you through rehabilitation, and you were going to do that with your dogs on your own. You remember?
Yeah.
And look at you. Your dogs never did rehabilitation. And you got through it. That is so fantastic. There are so many people that are out there now thinking, I don't have enough money, I can't afford to do this or do that, and I can't afford to talk to him, or it's too expensive. All these fears that are keeping them from solving the problems with their dogs, but they're simple problems. I know if you think about aggression in a very negative way, a big way, it's going to be a problem. But if you break it down like we broke it down with you, then we see that it's not so difficult, and we can be victorious. And you're an example of that. And I just wanted to have you on to let people know and that you can do it. And you're a female. Doesn't matter if you're male or female, but you are a female with 3 huge pit bulls, and you did it. And I want to talk more with you too at some other time. And I want people to go through another journey that you went through with your dogs, and we will pick that up at another time.
Okay.
I want to thank all of my callers. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Fouché Way radio show every Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m. Also, I want you to follow us on Facebook, the Fouché Way, and Twitter. Please bring your calls in. Let us know if you need help. That's what we're here for. It's a nonprofit organization, Canine Hope for Improvement. I want to quickly go to the Press-A-Canarians that are on my website. I have Marla Trouser, which is our resident attorney that's online. I want you, did you see those videos, Marla? Are you there? Marla? I guess we lost Marla. Well,
yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
I want to very quickly,
I did see the videos.
We're running out of time, and I want you to kind of tell, I mean, those dogs were brought up from the Palm Springs shelters. Those girls, Nancy and Tanya, saved those dogs, brought them to me. You see them. Tell me what their fates were if they didn't get them out of there. What was going to happen? What's happening with most shelters now?
With most shelters, the typical reaction of most shelters is to take the larger dogs, particularly the bully breeds and any breed that they perceive as a problem, and they have a knee-jerk reaction out of fear, and many of them refuse to adopt out those dogs. They would prefer to kill them because they consider it a liability. They say, oh, we can never adopt out this dog. It's a liability. And what they don't really realize, or they don't want to realize, is that's a hurdle that's easily overcome.
Right.
it's sort of really almost just a justification for killing those breeds. And I think it's based almost entirely out of their own fears.
Right, exactly. And everyone take a look at them. They're wonderful dogs. They need homes, and we're trying to help them, and they're just a smidget of the dogs we need to get out. Thank you very much for listening to the Fouché Way Show. We will see you next Thursday at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.